Hello there, and welcome to Women's Business.
My name is Dr. Marianne Shallcross Smith, known to most as Dr. Daycare, and this is my co-host, Amy Vogel. We'd like to welcome you to our mentoring program designed to educate our community on issues facing working women. We will be speaking to our guests in the areas art, sciences, health, education, law, medicine, politics, community service, military, and business.
The goal of the show is to provide information that comes only from personal experience and to pass this information down to our daughters, nieces, neighbors, family, and friends. Much of the content will relate to the guest speaker's journey in their profession, what they have learned most about this process, and what they wished they had known before this journey began. Since women-owned businesses are the fastest growing sector of our economy, my guests will close with what lesson they would like to pass on to the viewing audience.
Hello, and thank you for joining us today on Women's Business. Amy and I are honored to welcome to our show two authors, Victoria Corliss and Leigh Brown. Welcome
Thank
to
you very
Women's
much for
Business.
having
My
us.
goodness
Good
gracious,
morning.
this is going to be a great show, I can tell, just by the way it began. Tell me a little bit about you, Vicki, how you got from here to there.
How I got from here to there? Well, my professional background is in marketing, so I've always done a lot of writing in the course of my work, and about 14 years ago, we were just talking about the year 14, I met Leigh, and we are both avid readers, and in the course of our friendship and our reading interests, we started talking about writing and writing our own books. So we launched that in 2009. It was our first foray into the world of writing.
It's almost 10 years you've been writing together.
Almost.
Yes.
Wow, that's fantastic. Wow.
It's been wonderful.
That's, but you can tell by the smiles you both have, absolutely.
We do like each other.
Yeah. And Leigh, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I actually started in the business world. I was a corporate financial analyst for many years in Providence and left when I had children. And at that time was looking for a creative outlet. So I actually had for many years a decorative painting business. And that was prior to meeting Vicki, and then that sort of merged into this writing opportunity. So I like to say to people, I conquered the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain.
That is true. Very
Hopefully bringing a little business sense to the partnership.
Fantastic. Wow. So you want to tell us a little bit about your first book that you did together, the Trials and Tribulations of it?
Sure, and there were some. Second Chances, this book right here, was the first book. And really, this was the one that we came together and we said, we want to try to write a book. We did a lot of research and a lot of reading on what makes a good story, what are the elements, what will hopefully draw a reader into the story and help them continue reading to the very last page. And then, as I mentioned before, we're also very avid readers ourselves, so we had an idea of what would be a story that we would like to read, and we strove very hard to write something along those lines. But we were both working at the same time that we started writing Second Chances, and so we had to, in fairness, put time into our careers as well as time into writing. So because the writing of the story didn't get our full attention right away, it took us almost 4 years, and it took 3 attempts to come up with the story that you see before you today. That being because we just didn't feel we were getting the right story, the best story that we could tell. So it took us a couple of tries to get it to the story that it is today.
4 years though, and you kept at it, which is amazing.
We
You
did.
never
we
said,
did.
no, forget it, this isn't going to work. You just kept trying and made it work for you.
That's true, because we love it. We love the writing, and we love telling stories. We love hearing stories. So all of that, I think, makes our business something that we very much enjoy. It truly is a passion that we have transformed into what we hope is a successful business.
Yes, and I think one of the other things we always say, we're so lucky that we're partners because we keep each other on track. We keep
Yes, you
each
do.
other to a schedule and deadline. So while 4 years was an enormous amount of time, we realized by the second book that you know, we really have to be organized, but if we have deadlines, we'll stick to them, and then that other person helps the other one sort of keep to the deadlines. I think when you're writing alone, it can often be very difficult because
Very lonely.
if you're experiencing writer's block or the character's not quite developing the way you want it to, there's not a lot of places you can get inspiration where we can bounce ideas off each other.
Now you talk about interesting writing as a business. Can you give a little aspect in case anyone else there wants to kind of start a business and they want to go to writing a children's book or an adult's book? What would you suggest so they team up?
When we started writing, it really was about the love of writing a book and the challenge of writing a good story. And I don't think it was until we actually got to the very last page and we had gone through our editing process and so forth that we realized, okay, we now have a book. What are we supposed to do with it?
Look at this wonderful book.
So I like to say that we have taken a passion and we have turned it into a business.
Fabulous.
And by business, I mean that we have to find ways to market this book and share our stories with the reading audience. And that does take a lot of learning. One of the things that I like to tell people is that they should never be afraid to ask for help, especially when you're starting something new. We didn't fully understand or appreciate what we were jumping into when we said we want to try writing books together. But we do have a business, and the best way to learn how to make your business a success is to talk to other people, to ask the questions. It does not make you weak. It does not make you look like you don't know what you're doing. It's rather very empowering because it gives you the information and the knowledge you need to move forward in
I think as a
marketing your
grandmother of
books.
5, you brought upon something that I think is in so many women asking for help.
Absolutely.
Why do we like back off on that? I don't
Absolutely.
understand that, but we do. When you just said it, like the lightning rod went off my head. Like, just ask for help. The resources are out there. Just get people to support
Exactly.
it. I think that's a big, giant step.
And we've been amazed at how wonderful people
People
are.
are,
They
yes,
are
they want to help.
information and
They're
help.
very helpful, and so there are a lot of twists and turns where we really weren't sure it was a new industry for us, and yet people always were willing to give us either tidbits or advice or resources or whatever it was, and so yeah, ask for help. People are willing to give it to you.
Yeah, I've never met such a supportive community as authors.
Yes.
Honestly, it's amazing. I mean, I wrote a children's book only like 3 or 4 years ago, but it's just such a supportive industry.
I think we're so excited about what we're doing.
Yes.
We all love what
Yeah.
we're doing, and we're so excited about what we produce that we want to talk to other people
Yeah.
about
You
it.
wanna
We
share
want
it,
to
right?
share
Yeah.
it. And, you know, in asking for help, sometimes you don't always get
Yeah.
good answers. Sometimes you don't always get the response that you're looking for, but those are lessons as well. You can take away from those experiences just as much as you can take away from something that somebody teaches you that's solid.
Yeah. I'm always a big sifter of, I ask if I get the courage sometimes, took me many years, but as you become a grandmother, you get more and more courage. I can't explain it. So if you do ask those questions, then you just got to sift out what works for you and what doesn't. You know?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But most people are always willing to give you really good advice.
Yeah,
It's from
absolutely.
they're coming from their hearts, which is fantastic.
And I think another thing we were very realistic about is we wanted to grow it as a business sort of organically. Like we didn't want to go from 0 to 100. We weren't expecting to go from 0 to 100. Were a lot of steps in between that we had to master, and so we took our time and gained confidence. Every step you took and you mastered, it just gave you confidence to go to the next level.
So the first book took you 4 years. From there, how about the additional 2 books? Did it become easier because you kind of found how you gel together, how to make
Absolutely.
it work, lessons learned from the first book? So on average, how long does it take you all now? Or
Well,
it
I don't know
depends.
that there's an average
Okay.
for us. We had the title of The Pie Sisters, which is our second book, even as we were writing Second Chances. And so we sort of had an idea of where we wanted to go with that story. It was only 2 years between Second Chances and The Pie Sisters from writing to publication. But The Pendulum's Truth, which just came out this past summer,
Congratulations.
thank you very much, took us 3 years, because that was one that we really had not been germinating the story idea as we were writing The Pie Sisters. So we had to come up with the story idea, and that took a little bit of time, and then the actual writing and editing and all of that. So it was 3 years.
Now, do you use a publishing company, or how does
We
it?
are self-published.
You're
We
self-published.
work through CreateSpace, which is now KDP,
Yeah, amazing.
Amazon.
It's opened up everything.
It's opened up a whole new world, though,
It
for
has.
authors to have the ability to publish their works.
Absolutely.
I would say 10, 20 years ago, you had to go to an actual publishing agency, which is very difficult at times.
Oh, absolutely. But I also think that that is another example of why viewing your writing as a business is so much more important, because you have to make your own mark in the self-publishing world. Self-publishing has opened doors for all of us, which is a wonderful thing. But the floodgates have opened,
The
and there
floodgates have
are
opened. There's a lot out
many
there, yeah.
self-published books
Yeah.
out there. So
Yeah.
how do you make your story stand out? And that's where you have to really embrace this as a business. Enjoy the creative aspects of it. Enjoy creating your stories and the books themselves. But once you have them, appreciate the fact that you have a product, and you have to market it.
Now, how do you all market it? What have you found to be the best way of doing it? What have you done that you're like, oh, we shouldn't have done that? Like, what have you learned along the path?
Well, you had a great response to that question a couple of weeks ago. We belong to an organization called the Association of Rhode Island Authors. They are not a writing group in the sense of helping you critique or work on your writing, but more a resource of means to market your books, whether it's through events, whether it's through media opportunities. But they are a great guide, if you will, to not just the organization itself, but all the members. There are over 300 members of ARIA today.
Just in Rhode
Yeah,
Island.
big
Just
shout out
in
for
Rhode Island.
Aria.
They are
Yes.
all
Steve
Rhode
and
Island
his wife have
authors.
done an
Wonderful.
amazing.
And we meet
amazing.
every month, and we share. We share the fact that we have a new book out. We share events that we may have gone to and what worked for us or what didn't. So I think that networking is a
Networking's
huge
It's
part.
huge. And I also think understanding your market, because we write women's fiction, so it's about finding places where we can really connect with our reader. Many members of our group are sci-fi and fantasy writers, and so they do the Comic-Cons and
Yeah.
those kind of, which
Yes.
I can't, it's different for us. So I think it's really important to know who your market is and then how to reach that market.
Now, do you go to some of your readers to get reviews of the book to kind of help you with that? Do you
We
what's on
always
Facebook?
ask our readers, because we do a lot of events. We've gone to Situate Art Festival, we've gone to the Big E up in Springfield, Massachusetts. And whenever we talk to our readers, we always ask them to please review our books on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, Smashwords. Reviews are everything to an author, and it doesn't have to be a glowing review. I'm not asking for people to criticize our books overly, but I think as a consumer myself, I look at reviews all the time on any product. I don't care if it's soap
you?
or,
Oh,
yes, yes.
fruit or
I
whatever.
am so blind to that. I will not read anyone's views. Isn't that amazing?
It is
Really?
interesting. And
Amy's
see,
always trying to get me to do that. I just can't. I have to go in with like this interesting. I have to go in with my own clear mind on this, and I can't
but I
explain
think
it.
they're great and very
They are
helpful,
great.
but only if they're honest. And you can
Yes.
tell
Yes.
if you
Yes.
go on
Yes.
and you
Yes.
read, and they're
Yes.
100% glowing and wonderful, and nobody's ever written a better book than
Yeah.
these two girls,
Right.
which I like to think is true.
Right.
But
However,
I
yeah.
also appreciate the reviewer who comes at it from an honest place and says, it was a wonderful read. Maybe it was a little too short for me. Maybe I would have liked to have known a little bit
Right.
more about this character. With Second Chances, because it was our first book and our first foray into this world, I think the most common critique we received was that people wanted to know more. They wanted to know what happened afterwards, and they also wanted to know more about each
But
of
that
the
means
characters.
that's a good book. Because when you're done with the book and you want more,
Yeah.
that's how you know it's good. when you're done with the book, you're like, okay, well, it's over.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Exactly.
Well, each of our 3 books, we've been asked, will you write a sequel? And I think we kind of feel like when the story is finished, you know, we're ready for the next creative endeavor. So we've kind of put it to bed. But you're right, I think in some ways that's a nice thing because people are saying, gee, I really would like to know more about this character or that character. She was my favorite, so what happens to her after the last page?
They become, when you're reading, they become real to you, right?
Absolutely.
They become like, you're like, oh my gosh, like you feel the character.
Absolutely.
So,
Well, like Lee was saying, a lot of people have asked us about sequels, and we know people who write sequels. And their thinking is that they spend so much time and effort developing the characters that they don't want to just say goodbye after one book. They feel I've invested all this time and effort, I'm going to go into a second story with them. We feel we've invested all the time and effort, we've really gotten to know them and we enjoy them, but now we're ready to meet some new people. So let's go on and tell a different story.
Just a very different approach, absolutely, yeah. Now, do you have goals between you? Like, I want to sell this so many books this year of the Pie Sisters, or do you have those types of goals, or?
I don't think we've set business goals like that. What we have found is that with the addition of each book to our library, we call it the Brown Corliss Books Library, we have started to develop a following. We have readers who come to see us at specific events each year because they know we have a new book out. We find that offering more than one story has greater appeal to the audiences that we see, just because they know they've got choice now. I think they know that they haven't heard the last from us. Whether or not they like it is something else. So I think that our goal is to keep writing and to come out with more good stories that we both enjoy.
Just like sitting here thinking, like, if maybe we all just take one Facebook day and 10 or 12, 15 people get together of authors and just put that one book out there on all our pages. And again, the following Monday, do one book, you know, a children's book all that week, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So as you said, networking is going to be such an important part on really getting these books out there to be read.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Association of Rhode Island Authors has a big event every year. This year it's on December 1st. It's called the Authors Expo at Rhodes on the Patuxent in Cranston. And one of our members, a woman named Martha Reynolds, has a blog post on Facebook. And she has, for the last, I think this is her third year now, has very generously offered up her blog to 30 authors within ARIA. And she features their books one a day for the month of November.
Wow.
Now you have to sign up and get in on it.
It's fantastic to know.
But that's essentially what she's doing, is this one author who has her own titles as well, is featuring another author every day for the month of November.
That's a great idea. That's a really good idea.
It's amazing the author industry, as you all said earlier, you're also supportive of each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In some industries aren't as supportive. You're always like, oh, it's competition. But you all are working together to make it work.
Yep.
Because you can read multiple books by multiple authors, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have the monopoly over all books.
Reading
great.
is such a personal thing,
Yes, it is.
and I think it's wonderful because it's what are you in the mood for today? You know, do you
exactly.
want some nonfiction? Do you want to learn something? Do you want to be entertained? Do you want something thoughtful? You know, and you could read all of those, and they're all marvelous books. So,
Yeah, it's funny. Over the summer, I read like very easy reads that just put me in a happy mood. You know, at the end, everyone's going to be happy,
beach read.
married, in love. You know, and I'm like, and my husband's always like, you know, it's gonna. I go, it doesn't matter. I just that's a good feeling.
it's entertaining.
Yes. Then like the winter comes, and I'll get more into like nonfiction and more meaty stuff. But it just
Deeper,
depends on
heavier.
what you want at that
Absolutely.
moment.
Seasons, yeah.
So it's kind of
I honestly think the hardest thing or the biggest challenge for all of us is finding the time to read.
I agree.
Thank you for bringing that
I do a
up.
lot of
So-
podcasts
True.
now because at least when I'm driving, someone's reading to me or I'm listening because when I get home,
There's no time.
Podcasts are huge now. Our books are all available in print form, but also ebook form because a lot of people
wonderful.
are traveling
Yes,
for
yes.
business. And so we're using Kindles and
Yes.
iPads and
That's
so
huge.
forth to read our books. And the plane is obviously a good downtime, or train or
you're
bus.
stuck, right? You can't do
Right.
anything.
Right.
It's time to read a book that
But
you want to actually read, yeah.
That's what we hear from a lot of the people that we meet in person, is that they have stacks of books on their bedside table, and they can't resist buying the book because they know they want to read it, but to find the time is very difficult.
You just totally labeled me. I have a stack of that, honestly.
I do
it's like-
too.
and I shipped them around.
I do too.
And I just came back from a trip, and I took two with me and got maybe page, chapter or whatever in the beginning, and you start reading two of them, and next thing you know, it's back on the end table again.
Absolutely.
Because of time. It's actually so
Absolutely.
much is coming at so many people today, too.
And I think social media, unfortunately,
Yeah.
you get
Yeah.
you
Sucked
scroll-
into
you
that.
Kinda, and I feel like
Kinda, yeah.
I think if I would just put that aside, I probably could read a chapter
Yeah.
easy in
Absolutely.
a day.
Yeah.
There's so much information coming at us all the time.
Oh.
I feel like it's just
Yeah.
you got to shut it
Yeah.
off now and just
do.
do
And
what you want.
as an early educator, I still really feel it's important, and just be my bias, that a parent pick up that book and nestle with their child at the end of the day and just read a book to children. So they can feel that.
I read Harry Potter, all 7
Did you?
Harry
My
Potters
husband
to
did
my
too,
son
yeah.
at night.
And
Yep.
it's, I think we have a chance for the younger generation, like the little kids, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But the minute they start getting 7, 8 years, everything's going on the Kindle and stuff. So.
Yeah.
But who knows, that might change too, because children are more access to,
It's interesting that you say that, because when we came out with Second Chances, we only published it as an ebook because we had done all kinds of research and studying
Yep.
that told us that not only was readership on tablets on the rise, but the sales of the tablets
Yep.
and readers themselves
That's my
were on the
understanding.
rise. So we said, well, if people aren't reading print anymore, we'll just release it in the e-format. And that was all fine and dandy until we started getting comments from people saying, congratulations, we're very excited for you, but I only read print. I like to hold the book. I like to
turn a
turn the
page.
pages. Swiping the page is not quite the same.
Yeah,
so
I get that, yeah.
we came out with it in print form, and ever since, the next 2 books were always, it was known it was going to be print and ebook.
that was great feedback that someone gave you, absolutely.
Absolutely.
So really, you got to do both, tablet and
Absolutely.
ebook. And
And it just goes to show research isn't always
Correct.
to be
Yes.
counted
Right,
on either,
right.
because we really did do our homework.
And we've had a few questions about audiobooks because some authors are going in that direction as well, where
It's
they're
like the
recording.
podcast.
Yes. Yes. Because I know on my way from work, I'll put it on from home to work, get what podcast I'm listening to, get the information, and then the way home. And so it's easy, it's quick. I get the information I need, and it's over.
Right.
Then when I'm home, I don't feel guilty if my daughter's there and I'm reading a book, which I know
Yeah.
you shouldn't feel guilty about reading, but it's about the time not spent.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
And as we said earlier, there's just so much coming at everyone compared to even 5 years ago. It's like you got to pick what do you want to read or what do you want to watch, etc. So
Well, you mentioned reading more than one book at a time,
I
and
can't
when
do
I was
that.
a
I can't.
teenager, I used to have
Could
3
you?
books going, and I could pick them up,
Yeah.
and I could
me too.
pick up right where I left off, and I
Okay.
could keep the story straight between me, or between them. Now, it takes all I have just to focus on the one, so
I have to
can't
do
do
one
that
at a time.
anymore.
I
One
get too
at a time.
confused.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh my
Yes.
God, to mix the characters in the books. I'm like, no, I gotta concentrate. My husband, he can read multiple at the same time. I cannot.
my brain can't do it anymore, not anymore.
So if anyone's watching A Woman's Business, can you give any words of wisdom, like if they really want to write a book, how to get started? Like, what are the top 3 things you would suggest? Just start writing or just
do
start
it.
typing?
Just do it. You know what's interesting? We have a lot of people when we are at events that stop and say, I'm working on a book. I've been working on a book for the last 5 years. I've been working on it. I'd like to start a book. I have a really good story to tell.
Yeah.
And they're so frozen in time of how to accomplish that or start that. And we always say to them, just start writing.
What do you think they're frozen on?
I think thinking you have to have a finished product right out of the gate, and that's never going to happen. It's a process.
you.
It's a process.
It's a process.
It
is.
requires, as Vicki said, it requires a lot of missteps, a lot of start overs, and we have a professional editor at the end that could come back and say, well, you need to work on this a little bit too. So it is a process, and I think if you're willing to embrace that, then just start. Just start.
I also think, just to add to that, we are sort of an anomaly. There are other co-authors out there, but there aren't as many as there are individual authors. And the writing process is a very solitary thing. So
It's true.
I would be all right on my own, literally in the room writing. But for me, the partnership has been key in terms of creating what we're going to write. And for the business aspects involved after the book is done. And I think that that's where a lot of people may be intimidated or unsure. How do you put yourself out there as an individual and just engage to share your story with people? We have each other to talk to. If there's nobody talking to us, we have each other to be planning our next stories. We have each other.
Absolutely.
How about like timelines? I'm
great.
sure you set up a timeline. This chapter needs to be done by this date. How do you check in with each other if someone's like, I'm not even falling
If we have a
behind, but
deadline, we have to make it.
We text
You
a
make,
lot.
there you go. Okay, so you make bottom line.
coming
You
along
make
with
your
that?
deadline. You make your deadline.
We do. We
There
do.
you go. But
We
that should
but
be
we're
the
realistic too.
That
because
should be
we-
the expectation.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, there's real life at the same times. We're running in
Absolutely,
parallel
yeah.
worlds.
Yeah.
So, but we try and make it realistic.
But that is the beauty of the partnership again.
Yeah, you got each
I'm
other
not
to
just letting
check in
myself
with.
down. I'm letting her down if I don't make my deadline,
So
and
it's like you feel the
I would never do
responsibility.
that. I absolutely do.
That's amazing.
It's a great partnership. It really is. Have you ever
Great
put
friendship.
a cost on how much it is to even get a book up and going in time? Have you ever thought of that process?
I haven't, but I'm not the math brain.
No, my daughter's a math brain for me too. Yeah, yeah.
No, we haven't really.
She's the bean counter, as she likes to
Bean
call
counter.
herself. She does all of our accounting, she does our taxes, she does our inventory, and she would do those configurations. I just don't
Yeah.
even make change.
When I did Edgar Graduates, I just got into it. It was in my head, put it on paper the whole bit, and worked with the illustrator, Rebecca. But the next I'm doing another children's book. I'm sticking with kids' books, and I'm actually putting a little bit of time to kind of say, all right, what does this
Like a
measure out
time
into?
sheet?
You just to get a time sheet. Say, okay, what does this truly measure out in? You know?
That would be
Smart.
interesting.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had done or anything like that.
Yeah.
So we have like 1 minute left. Is there anything you want to end with? Any words of wisdom or great?
Thank you
Great
so much.
host.
Thank you so much for having us. This has been a wonderful opportunity. We're really delighted to be
opportunity.
We
here.
for
hope
us
we've
too.
shared some information that's worthwhile to people. I would just say if you are thinking about writing a book, as Lee said, do it.
Just start.
Don't think about it. Don't overthink it.
I
Just
think
start.
as women we tend to overthink things, so I think that's a good point.
Absolutely.
Just get going. Just
Get
try it.
going.
What's the worst that can happen, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
You know, one page could turn into 200 before you know it.
Exactly.
One thing I did learn, I'll pass on, is get my doctorate degree, and I was doing my thesis. It's like, back then it was a typewriter. But I took a whole course in this. They said, just sit down and just type. Don't think, just type. Just let it flow,
Let it flow.
let it flow, let it flow, and a day later look at it. And that's kind of worked. It really has.
good.
Like no criticism on yourself, just type, which is now keyboarding. So
That's true.
thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
for having
you.
us.
Thank
I
you.
really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. Great show.